Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is a remastered version of the original Xenoblade Chronicles released for the Nintendo Wii in 2010. This version of the game features enhanced visuals, a remastered soundtrack, and an epilogue set 1 year after the events of the main story. Chronicles takes place in a truly unique setting. The world you explore as Shulk exists entirely on a Titan, the Bionis, which is a massive creature that died while locked in battle with its nemesis, another Titan, the Mechonis. And this is a story that deserves to be experienced firsthand. So without giving too much away, it revolves around the return of the Mechon, robotic enemies that live on the Mechonis, and Shulk's awakening as the only person able to truly wield the full power of the Monado, a sword that is the only weapon capable of defeating the Mechons. Of course, there's more to the story, but this is something you really should discover yourself. Xenoblade Chronicles can be summed up as a game of exploration and deep mechanics. In terms of exploration, the game is absolutely littered with excuses to travel off the beaten path. There are side quests galore which reward you with money, experience, and items immediately upon completion. And every one of the game's various and very expansive areas features collectibles to find. And these aren't only for the completionists out there, because every subgroup of collectible that you complete rewards you with items that can be slotted into armor for additional perks, such as increased strength or HP. And if you can find portals that lead to the Nopon Archsage's realm, you could take part in time attack challenges that reward you with high-tier equipment for achieving a high rank. There are even unique monsters that you can go out and hunt. Now, this game is filled to the brim with content, and you can rest assured that you will never find yourself in a position where all you have to do is complete the main quest. Couple the exploration aspect of the game with a fantastic soundtrack and amazing views which truly create a sense of awe and wonder, and you have a game that not only encourages the player to explore, but actually makes you want to scour each area in search of that one last collectible you need. And just in case you need to be convinced about the quality of the soundtrack, listen to this. The game's combat system is worth discussing since there are so many mechanics in play. First off, if you've seen gameplay and thought to yourself, geez, this looks complicated, it really isn't. Combat is easy to understand, but hard to master. Essentially, combat happens in real time, and you can move around freely while your character automatically attacks a targeted enemy. Beyond regular auto attacks, you could choose to activate arts, which are special attacks that do damage, and sometimes apply buffs to allies and debuffs to enemies. There is an additional layer to this as well, since some arts do more damage depending on what side of the enemy you are before you activate it. For example, Shulk's backslash deals double damage when he attacks an enemy from behind. But then aggro comes into play, and the more a character is a threat, usually by dealing a lot of damage, the more enemies will focus on them. And this makes it more difficult to maneuver, and so introduces a strategic need to lower aggro or shift it to another party member so that your active character can maneuver freely around the enemy. Suffice to say that combat feels engaging and rewarding. Of course, you can always spam arts and hope for the best, and you probably won't have such a hard time as long as the enemy isn't over your level. But combat is really at its best when you take each encounter strategically. Chronicles is a huge game filled with many different mechanics, and just when I thought I'd seen everything the game had to offer, a new tutorial would pop up and introduce another mechanic, whether it be about activating arts, specializing characters through skill trees, issuing orders to allies during combat, and much, much more. But it never felt overwhelming. In fact, it's the inclusion of all those mechanics that helps make the game so incredibly fun and engaging. They all work together to create a level of complexity that forces you to evaluate your options and think ahead, but without ever leaving you feeling like you've made a huge mistake hours down the line. And since the game does take a little while to really open up, you're introduced to mechanics gradually throughout the opening hours, and everything you're shown becomes intuitive after a very short while. The only exception to this is the game's affinity chart. Simply put, the affinity chart keeps track of your party's standing with individual characters and settlements dotted around Bionis. Speaking to named NPCs registers them on the chart, and completing quests or even just trading with them can link NPCs and settlements together. As you complete quests for NPCs or settlements, your affinity will rise, although some quests may lower it. This may have been a cool feature in 2010, but it's just needlessly complex and the game never really dives too deeply into it. Fortunately, the affinity chart isn't necessary to complete the game. So here we have a game that is 100 hours long, features myriad side quests, many areas to travel to, collectibles to find, deep mechanics that can have you spending a lot of time fine-tuning your characters through skill trees and various equipment, and an epic, emotional story. But as if that wasn't enough already, this edition of Chronicles features an expansion to the main quest. Future Connected serves as an epilogue that takes place 1 year after the main story. I won't go into any details so as to avoid spoilers, but this isn't just a quick epilogue. This is an expansive, 20-hour story that features different combat mechanics, new side quests, and new and returning characters. Better yet, for those who played the original version of Chronicles, Future Connected is available to play right from the start by selecting it in the main menu. So this isn't an expansion that's gated behind a massive game. But for those who are experiencing Chronicles for the first time, it's highly recommended to complete the main game first. By now it should be obvious that I believe Xenoblade Chronicles to be an outstanding achievement of a game. But you're probably wondering if you should spend money on it. Well, this isn't a game for everyone. It demands hours and hours from you, and if you don't have that kind of time to invest in a game, or if you tend to quickly get tired of your games, Chronicles just isn't the game for you. But if you're a JRPG fan, or even just a traditional RPG fan who wants to play a great game, someone who likes to spend a lot of time with their games and really get their money's worth from them, Chronicles is a must-buy. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is a near masterpiece of the JRPG genre. The epic story can be put on hold as you spend hours exploring the unique world and discovering all it has to offer. It is absolutely packed with enjoyable content and never seems to overstay its welcome despite its length. This is a game that every RPG and JRPG fan should play at least once in their lifetime.